My sister came by and gave me this guitar. It was on its way out to a dumpster. It's a first act guitar, and I remember these being sold at Walmart years ago. I thought it would be interesting to do a video seeing if we can fix this guitar up to be playable with a professional or at least medium grade instrument. It's got 3 strings on it. There is something rattling around in the guitar. You know, we have the aging and dings on the headstock. The nut is loose. It's not glued into place. The fret wire has that olive green corrosion all over it. It's like an olive green film that fret wire gets. It's fingerboard looks pretty dirty. This thing is absolutely filthy, dude. There's fingerprints all over it. Okay, I've got some Dawn on a washcloth, and we're just gonna go over this thing like I'm hand washing a car. I wouldn't do this with a normal guitar, but this guitar needs it. At the car wash. Let's get the neck. Greasy food hands or whatever the hell's be on this thing. Now that we have our vehicle lathered up, went and rinsed and wringed the cloth out, come back, wipe all of the soap off of it. All right, it looks a lot better. The remaining strings can tell you a lot. Bar the first fret, put your palm around the 15th, and you can tap around here just to check the neck relief. And it's just ting, ting, ting. So right now, the neck relief is actually pretty good. You can just look at this stuff on the old junk strings before you clip them off. It looks like these pickups are a bit too high. We could just go ahead and lower these pickups down some just to get them out of our way. Lefty loosey pulls the pickup back down into the pick guard. And if you forget this, you can just start twisting and see which way the pickup's going. Other than holding this nut in place, we have no further use for these junk strings that are on it. I'm going to go ahead and clip those off. Looks like it has D'Addario on it. Either that or the imitation D'Addario. You never can tell these days. Go ahead and pull these plates off. Oh wow, look at this. The actual tremolo is broke. The trem block. That's where the whammy bar goes in. Maybe someone went a little berserk on the bar. This is probably some kind of lead pot metal, huh? It doesn't really matter. This block is cracked, I don't guess. The springs look like they're in a good position. I need to pull this pick guard up and look underneath it. Looks like the clear cellophane wasn't taken off all the way. They just happened to leave a strip of it on right here. Okay, well, let's lift this pick guard up. So these cavities all look good, and before I tighten this back down, we need to check the electronics. Bridge pickup, bridge metal, just metal, middle neck, neck. Electronics are fine. We can tighten the pick guard back down. Since I'm not going to be doing any adjustments to the tremolo whatsoever, it's pretty much just going to be in a fixed position. There's really no more adjustments to be done here. And actually go ahead and put the tremolo plate back on it. Alright, next on the cleaning side, there's areas where there's like some sticky stuff that may have been from tape. I'm just going to go over these areas with some Zippo fluid. This stuff will completely disintegrate any sticky adhesive, kind of like Goo Gone or whatever the hell. Fuel gone, freaking naphtha gone. Even after the Dawn, there is like finger grease residue everywhere. So what we're going to do here, take a little piece of paper towel. I'm going to soak it with this Zippo fluid. You know what I mean? Something like that. And then just wipe the guitar, bruh. This would take all of the oily films, any kind of residual adhesive. Yeah, that's great, dude. The naphtha makes that super clean. When you do this stuff, you can put your chin and your mouth up against it. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you rest the guitar against your face or something because you're lazy. Regarding this loose nut right here, I'm going to try to put a couple of dots of this 3M plastic and emblem adhesive. I see luthiers just use dots of super glue. I don't have any super glue. This nut feels like it's plastic. I think we'll be just fine using a couple of dots of this. It doesn't take much glue at all to hold a nut in place, so no matter what glue I use, I'm just going to use as little as possible. There's a tiny dot there. I need another dot like right here. So there's 2 dots of 3M emblem glue. This is a super tight fit because I didn't pull the truss rod cover off. I'm going to want to go straight down on this. You really need to keep pressure on this because as the glue cures, it's probably going to try to raise upward with it. And this is a real important measurement, these nut slot heights. They can always be cut back down, I guess. I don't have a nut file though. That's pretty tight. This is a piece of Miracle polishing cloth. I'm going to go over these corroded frets with it and bring them back to a shine. Then take your fingernail and get the crevice between the side of the fret and the wood. We'll do that on both sides. Get the sides of the fret wire. Now I'm going to go over the top with one final polish. So here you go. You have a super clean fingerboard with polished fret wire. As you can see, that's a mirror shine on there. Very nice. Since this is essentially a Strat copy with the single coil pickups, I'm going to put D'Addario 9.5s on it and tune the guitar down a half step. E flat standard tuning seems to sound real good with single coil pickups. Run all of your new strings through the tremolo block from the back. Put the new strings in your tuning post. I go ahead and clip my strings before winding them. There's about 100 different ways you can wind strings on the post. I just make sure that my windings are uniform and I'm not like just leaving one band of winding. I measure my clipping by finger lengths, 1.5, 2, 2, 2.5, 3, 3. And by clipping them that way, it's this real nice windings all the way up. They're the same width. Looks real professional. 1.5, 2, 2, 2.5, 3, and 3. And I'll go through and clip these strings right after the kink that I put in them. The glue should be dry on this nut, but to keep from making uneven pressure and snatching it off to the side or whatever, I'm going to actually start winding the strings from the center. I'm going to do the 4th string and the 3rd string. I put the string through where the little kink is coming through the slot and just start winding it, man. As the post starts turning, I put another kink in it from the other side and then just sort of hold my finger down and keep resistance on the string and make sure the windings are heading downward towards the headstock. So you get the idea. I'm going to go through and wind all of the strings. See how nice these windings are? Make sure the strings are all in the slots where they're supposed to be. Make sure the balls are seated in the trim block. I'll just go ahead and ballpark the tuning on these strings. Okay, right now the neck relief That's pretty good. We have the high action here, and we don't want to bring these saddles down any farther because they'll start bottoming out, and your adjustment screws are right here flush pretty much, so down any farther will make the adjustment screws stab into your hand all the time. If anything, we want to keep these saddles the same height or bring them up. In order to do that, we're going to go backwards. Instead of going down to bring the strings close to the fingerboard, we got to bring the fingerboard up to the strings. And how you do that is with a neck pocket shim. When the neck shifts like this some from the shim, it raises the plane of the strings on this side, which will allow you to bring the saddles up, which is also bringing the fingerboard up to the strings. Let me show you how I make a neck pocket shim. You want to fold foil, preferably a straighter piece than this, of course. Fold foil in half. Try to keep it as straight as possible on your fold down here. You want to take your folded end and bring it up again, but you leave some space. Fold this piece up to here. Make sure your folded end is as straight as possible. Try not to crinkle it up. And do the same thing. The folded end comes up to here. Leave a little more space between the previous fold. The same thing again. This is your thick end now. Fold it up, leave some space from your previous fold. So essentially this is making an aluminum wedge. You have thin, little thicker, little thicker, little thicker. It's doing that. There's really only enough room to do one more fold. We're leaving a little bit of space, and then just go ahead and bring this final fold over. We're going to cut this to the shape of the neck pocket. In theory, this aluminum will mash to shape, and it's more of a consistent neck pocket shim because the neck can just squish the aluminum flush instead of there just being any pressure put on one little section from a pick being stuffed in there. You know what I'm saying? I actually think this method is better than the StewMac shims because if you use a StewMac, you can look at where the neck bolts to the body and you'll see a gap in the wooden StewMac shim in there, you know? Whereas these, you really don't see that. Here's a close look at what we did here. This will be the annoying process of loosening these strings and pulling the neck off of the guitar. Some tuners have a open slot and you can simply loosen the tuner some and the whole winding will pop off. These are just the normal tuning posts, so we're not going to be able to do that. I want to try to just loosen the strings enough, pull the neck off with the strings just flapping everywhere. Let's try to pull the neck off with that. I think everything is removed enough. Boom. As you can see, there was already a shim put in here. Looks like a piece of sandpaper or something. I'm not going to remove this because we already have quite a bit of ways to shim as it is. So we need all the help we can get. I'm just going to put our aluminum shim right over the top of this. Let's see here. I have 2 notches. I'm just winging this stuff, guys. Do yours however you see fit. There we go, fits in there pretty good. I'm going to trim this unevenness off right here. These corners are a little bit rounded, so what I'll do to make this fit better is I'll go ahead and round these corners a little bit. I don't know if you can see, but these 2 back screws, I actually screwed them back in so they're sticking up. The reason why is we put our shim in here and push down on top of where these screws are. I'm going to take a hole punch and punch out where those screw marks are. Do the same thing for the other screw mark. Let's see what we got lined up. If you're just wanting to do a standard neck shim, that should be all you need. Very, very carefully, without moving any of this stuff, we need to put the neck back and tighten it back down. This neck pocket here happens to be one that's actually threaded on the body. Some people just drill those out to where the screw just goes through the body end and it's only threaded on the neck side. I'm not going to mess with that, but when you're dealing with something like this, you're wanting to make sure that you have the neck totally flush against the body's surface before you start threading it. When you have 2 threaded pieces, there's no room to leave a big gap and tighten one side down once the threads have started. you know. Remember, our bottom screws here are sticking up a little bit because they're holding the foil in place. That's what we used to make our hole punch holes in the shims. This top part here is perfectly flush. What I'm going to do on these bottom screws is I'm going to back them out just a little bit to get those tips out of the way. So now we know the neck is flat up against the wood, right? And then start the screws again, because now the tips are going into the neck wood, and you know there's no cross threading going on, no gaps. Looks like we're good. By being lazy, we maintained our windings, and it's just a lot of slack here. So I'll be able to pull the slack out and wind these perfect windings all the way back up. Alright, this did exactly what I expected and wanted it to do. The action I'm shooting for is about right there. These saddles will have to come up, and the little bit of adjustment screw that's sticking up won't be there. They will be down inside of this block. Each individual saddle has the 2 Allen screws. I'm going to bring each individual saddle up to a 1/16 of an inch, and I usually measure this around the 21st fret on my guitars. The reason I always chose the 21st fret is because I originally played Stratocasters all through my 20s and all that, and those are 21 fret guitars, and I always adjusted my action from the 21st fret. So when I started playing 24 fret guitars and 22, I just wanted my strings the same way they were on the Strat, so I just continued to measure at the 21st fret. I'm going to do this off camera just for the sake of time and boredom, but we can go ahead and do the 6th string so you can just get an idea. Since we're going to go up and put more tension, I'm going to loosen the fat string all the way. Then just go ahead and start raising the saddle up. What I do to just keep it uniform is I'll go like 1, then go 1 on the other, 1. And this keeps the saddle pretty much flush as you're bringing it up, you know. I went through and I adjusted each individual saddle. So now each string is about a 1/16 of an inch at the 21st fret. I went through and adjusted the pickups to the proper height. I do lower the middle pickup down more than where it should be just to keep the pick from hitting it. But yeah. So if you see a guitar heading for the dumpster and you want to spend a little time on it, you can actually make a playable instrument out of it. It needs the frets leveled. You could take it to a luthier, have them level the frets. I haven't gotten into too much fret work yet because it's kind of a pain and it requires the proper tools to mess with it. If you level a fretboard, you're supposed to re-crown them and do this and that. There's no reason why you can't have a decent playing guitar. The market is oversaturated with instruments right now. I mean, everybody is making guitars. This is going to do it for this video. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and thank you so much. See ya.